Hi everyone, this is Rosie, and today we're going to be sewing the medium-sized pouch from my double zip trio with clear pocket pattern. So let's get started. The pattern offers all of the information that you need to make the pouch in 3 sizes. It comes in a small, a medium, and a large. I have 2 sets of pouches here. This set here was made using the pattern pieces within the PDF file, and this set was made with SVG files, which I'm also including as part of the pattern. Please note that the SVG files have only been tested on the Cricut Maker. So let's take a quick look at the pouches. The small size pouch measures approximately 8 inches wide by 6 inches high, and in the clear pocket you can easily store some crochet hooks. And then in the inside compartment you can store some other needed needlecraft items. The medium-sized pouch measures approximately 9.5 inches wide by 7.5 inches high. And in the clear pocket, you can actually store some Tombow markers. It'll also fit pencils, pens, Sharpies, and again, you have the interior compartment for storing other needed items. The large one measures approximately 11.5 inches wide by 9.5 inches high. And in the clear pocket, you can store some markers. And in the main compartment, you can store a journal and a small size sketch pad. This is the medium-sized pouch that we will be making in the video. I want to point out that the lining fits nicely in the interior, and I've drafted the pattern so that there's no need to take a larger seam allowance when you're sewing your lining. So let's talk about tools, notions, and materials that you will need to make the project. Here are some of the tools and notions that you will need to make the project. A ruler, wonder clips, and some straight pins. Now the pins that I have here are short glass head pins, and those are the ones that I like to use. If you decide that you want to sew the opening that we create to turn the pouch right side out, then you will need some hand sewing needles. To help sew through the clear vinyl, I recommend using a denim sewing machine needle. You will also need a zipper foot for your sewing machine. Most sewing machines do come with a zipper foot. This is the one that came with mine. You may have one that looks a little bit different. You will also need a pair of scissors, a point turner, and an erasable marking tool. Now, in my videos, I like to use the friction pens, but you want to be careful if you decide to use one of these, because while the ink will disappear with heat, it will come back with cold. To iron open the seams on the clear vinyl, I like to use a leather press roller. This one here is made of stainless steel, and it's pretty hefty. If you don't have one of these, you can use your point turner to help burnish open your seams. It's helpful to have a stiletto and a seam ripper. And I'm going to be using some general all-purpose sewing thread. This one is from Aurifil. And you'll need 1/4 inch double-sided adhesive tape. Here are all of my pieces cut out and ready to be sewn. You can find all the information for cutting out your pieces for the size pouch that you're making within the PDF file. I am using 100% cotton quilting fabric for each pouch, and each one of my cotton pieces has been interfaced with Pellon SF101. The pieces that I have here are for the medium-sized pouch, but the directions for making each pouch is exactly the same. Right here I have my 2 pieces of lining fabric that have already been interfaced with the SF101, as I said earlier. These 2 pieces will be used for my top bands, and this piece right here is my clear vinyl for the front pocket. This piece is my feature fabric, and it's the piece that will show through that clear view pocket. And then this piece right here is for my exterior back. In addition to these pieces, I've already cut out the ribbon that I will need, and I have my 2 zippers right here that I will need for the medium-sized pouch. Lastly, I have the piece here that will be used for the zipper tab. And I also want to point out that we actually only need one piece of ribbon for each pouch. So let's get started sewing this together. This is step 1, which is sewing the exterior front clear zipper pocket. You're going to need one of the zippers that's the size for the pouch that you're making. You're going to need your piece A feature fabric plus your piece of vinyl. And I'm going to put my vinyl aside for a second. And we want to take the zipper. We're going to clip the wrong side of the zipper to the right side of piece A. On this end I have my zipper stop, and I want that zipper stop to be going off of the right side edge of the piece, and you want your zipper pull to be to the left when the zipper is fully closed. So you'll clip these pieces together, and you want the top straight edge of the zipper to be even with the top straight edge of piece A. You'll just clip it all the way across. Now I'm going to bring back my clear vinyl, which is right here. This is the top straight edge of the clear vinyl. And I'm going to place a piece of the 1/4 inch double-sided adhesive tape all along that top edge. And I'm going to let the straight edge of the tape be even with the top straight edge of the vinyl. Then you can go ahead and burnish it down. And then we want to take the vinyl and place it back onto piece A here. You want your bottom and side edges to be even. You want to be all even right here around the curve, and we're going to clip the pieces together. And we're just clipping along the two sides and the bottom edge. I have the vinyl clipped into place, and the double-sided adhesive tape is actually on the underside of the vinyl right now. So my double-sided adhesive tape is actually being sandwiched in between the vinyl and the zipper. Now I want to go ahead and remove the release paper off of the tape all the way across. And after removing it, you want to go ahead and burnish that tape down so that it's sticking nicely to your zipper. Now we can go ahead and remove all of our clips. And you're going to have your vinyl and your zipper attached. And we're going to move our feature fabric out of the way for a minute. Now I want to take another piece of double-sided adhesive tape and place it along that top straight edge once again. So the edge of the tape is going to be even with the edge of my vinyl. Burnish it down and then remove the release paper. Now you're going to take your ribbon and you want to place the edge of the ribbon right along that top edge of the vinyl, and the double-sided adhesive tape is going to hold the ribbon in place. And just burnish it down really well. Now we can go over to the sewing machine and we can sew the ribbon in place 1/8 of an inch away from each long edge. I'm sewing on a Juki DX 4000 QVP, which is also known as the Kokochi. I will be using a stitch length of 2.6, and I have my zipper foot already installed onto the machine with the needle positioned on the left side of the zipper foot. And I will be sewing 1/8 of an inch away from the edge on both sides of the ribbon. you do want to back stitch. And I'm just going to let the edge of the zipper foot glide right along the edge of the ribbon there. Back stitch again, and now I can go ahead and sew down the opposite side of that ribbon. Here is our ribbon sewn into place, and if we look at the back side, we're going to see two lines of stitching. The top line of stitching right here is the stitching that is actually sewing the zipper to the vinyl. Take your feature fabric, and we're going to place the vinyl on top of the feature fabric. We want to line up the side edges, the bottom edge, and the top edges, so the top edge of your zipper should be even with the top edge of your feature fabric. So line everything up very carefully. I usually start by just putting one clip in on each side, and then I check my alignment. I'm just going to look at the back. I can see that my zipper is in line with the top of piece A. And then you want to open up your zipper slightly. Then you can go ahead and finish clipping the two parts in place. After clipping everything together, we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch around the perimeter of the pocket. I'm going to use a stitch length of 2.6, sewing 1/8 of an inch away from the edge all the way around the perimeter, and I did go ahead and switch out my presser foot. You don't need to backstitch. Try and keep all of those edges nice and even. Now when I get to the area where my zipper is, I will backstitch over those zipper teeth a couple of times. You never ever want to sew over metal zipper teeth. You probably also noticed that I did not use a Teflon foot. I'm able to sew with my regular presser foot over vinyl without any issues, but if you need a Teflon foot, certainly go ahead and use one. The last thing that we need to do is trim off the ends of the zipper, and I like to do it from the wrong side. This is step 2, where we will be sewing the top bands to the front and back exterior. So I have my front and back exterior plus my two top bands here, and I'll move the back exterior out of the way for a minute. You're simply going to take the top bands and you want to clip them along the top straight edge all along the length. You also want to make sure that your side edges are even on both sides of the pouch. And then you'll go ahead and clip the top band to the back exterior as well. Again, making sure that all of your side edges are also even. After you have the top bands clipped into place, we're simply going to sew across the top straight edge on both pieces with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you can see here that I actually drew in my 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm sewing with a stitch length of 2.6 and my seam allowance is 1/4 of an inch. You do want to back stitch at both ends here. I did start with my zipper pull open. My zipper pull is right here. And when I get to that spot, I'll just go ahead and move my zipper past the presser foot. Try and maintain that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Back stitch when you get to the end, and then you can sew the top band to the back exterior in exactly the same way. We need to press the seam towards the top, but we're going to do it from the wrong side of the fabric. You want to be very careful that you do not touch your iron on your vinyl. So I'll go ahead and give that a little press. And then you'll do the same thing on the back exterior. Press that seam towards the top. After you have both seams pressed into place, we're going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the seam on the top band. I'm using a stitch length of 3.0 and I'm just going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from this edge. You do want to back stitch at both ends. And then you can go ahead and top stitch the band on the back exterior in exactly the same way. This is step 3, which is the main compartment zipper preparation. You will need the zipper for the size pouch you're making. I'm doing the medium pouch, so I need my 12-inch zipper, which I have right here. The first thing that you need to do is cut the zipper stop off of the end of the zipper. And I'm just going to cut it right above the stop. Then we need to mark a line up from the bottom of the zipper, and you will find the measurement for the line in your pattern directions. Take your zipper tab and you're going to place the right side of the tab against the right side of the zipper. Then you can go ahead and clip it in place. And after clipping, sew 3/8 of an inch away from the edge of the tab. You want to back stitch at both ends, and I'm going to do that off camera. After sewing the tab, move the clips, and then you want to press the tab away from the zipper. Then turn the zipper so that the wrong side is facing up. Then you're going to take the end of the tab right here and fold it so that the end of the tab is meeting the end of the zipper. Just like this, and then you can press it in place. Then you're going to fold the tab over the wrong side of the zipper just like this, and hold it in place with a clip. And the fold of the tab here should be covering your line of stitching. We're not going to sew across the zipper tab at this point. We will do that in a later step. Move your zipper pull down below the line that you drew, and you'll take your zipper and you're going to fold the zipper tape so that it's wrong sides together right on the line right here. And then we're going to take this line and fold it up at a 45-degree angle, just like this. And your line should be sitting right at the bottom of the zipper teeth. So you'll get that in place and then hold it with a clip. And then you'll do the same thing on this side. Fold the tape back so that the tape is wrong sides together, and then fold the zipper tape up at a 45-degree angle so that this line is sitting right below the zipper teeth, and clip in place. And this is what it should look like right now. Now we need to secure the zipper tape in place. You can either do that with some hand stitching or you can do it over at your sewing machine. I have a needle and thread here, and I'm just going to take a few hand stitches into the zipper tape just to secure those ends. And you just need to take a few stitches on each side. After you have those tails tacked into place, you want to close your zipper. You want to make sure that the top edges of the zipper are even. And here's what it looks like from the wrong side. You should have a little 45-degree angle on each side of the zipper. And you don't want to trim back these tails right now, just leave them as they are. This is step 4, which is sewing the main compartment zipper to the front and back exterior. So I'm going to start with the front exterior, and I want to turn it so that it's wrong side facing up. This is my top straight edge, and I want to mark a line 5/8 of an inch in from each side edge here. So I'll just take my ruler and place it 5/8 of an inch from the edge and draw my line. Then I'll do the same thing on this side here. Then after I've drawn those lines, I'm going to take a pin and place it on each one of those lines. And this is going to transfer my marks to the front. So I can see where my pins are here, and now I have those markings in the front. Now, because my fabric is so dark, I chose to mark on the wrong side. If you want, you can mark from the right side, as long as you'll be able to see those marks. Take the zipper that you've prepared for whatever size pouch that you're making, and you want the right side of the zipper to be against the right side of the fabric. So I'm going to flip it over so that they'll be right sides together, and the top and the bottom of the zipper need to be placed within these pin marks. So I will start right over here. I'm making sure that the top edge of the zipper is right up against that pin, and then I'm going to clip it in place. And now I'm going to place the end of the zipper tab here, right where my pin mark is, and clip that in place as well. Now remember, we have not sewn down the zipper tab yet, so the clip is going to be holding the zipper tab closed for us. And you want the top edge of the zipper to be even with the top edge of the pouch. And clip all along the length. So your zipper pull will be to the left when the zipper is completely closed, and your zipper tab should be here on the right. Now that we have that clipped, we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the zipper. I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the zipper tape with a stitch length of 2.6. I will backstitch, and I'm starting with my zipper slightly open here. Now I will close my zipper and finish sewing across. Try and keep those top edges even. And backstitch. Prepare your exterior back in exactly the same way. I've already done that by marking a line 5/8 of an inch in from each side edge. Then I placed a pin on those marks to transfer those marks to the right side of the fabric. Then take your exterior front, push your zipper up, and then we're going to clip the opposite side of the zipper to the exterior back with right sides together. So I will start on this side and place my zipper tab right near this pin mark right here and clip in place. And then I'll go over to the other side and I'm going to place the top of the zipper right next to that mark and clip in place. Then you're going to clip along the length, and when you're done clipping, we will sew this together with another 1/8 inch seam. After you have the zipper clipped to the back exterior, make sure that your top edges are even. You also want to make sure that the side edges are even, so the side edge of your front should be even with the side edges of your back. Now we're going to sew straight across with a 1/8 inch seam, exactly the way we did for the front. Again, I'm sewing with a stitch length of 2.6, 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the zipper. And do backstitch. Going to move my zipper pull out of the way, and then I'll finish sewing across the length of the zipper. Keep those edges even. And then backstitch. And this is what your pouch should look like now, with the zipper sewn in between the front and back exteriors. This is step 5, sewing the main compartment zipper to the lining. I have the exterior here with the exterior back facing wrong side up. If I pull this aside, you'll see right here is the front exterior, and this is what we're actually pinning the lining to. So this top edge right here is the front exterior. So you can see it in this view. You're going to take one of your lining pieces and you want to place the right side of the fabric to the right side of the front exterior. But you'll also see that along the zipper the right side of the lining will be facing the wrong side of the zipper. So go ahead and clip that all the way across. Make sure that your top and side edges are even with each other. After clipping everything together, we're going to sew straight across the top edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So if I pull this back, again you'll see the front exterior here, and our lining is actually being clipped to the front exterior. I'm sewing with a stitch length of 2.6 and a seam allowance of 1/4 inch. I did switch back to my zipper foot here, and you do want to back stitch at both ends. My zipper pull is right here. I did start my seam with my zipper slightly open, and now I'm going to move the zipper pull back away from the presser foot. And then back stitch at the end. Now we need to sew our remaining piece of lining to the opposite side of the zipper. So if I push this lining piece aside, you'll see the opposite side of the zipper right here. This is the side of the zipper that was sewn to the exterior back. You're going to clip this together in exactly the same way that you did for the front. Match up your side edges, make sure that everything is even all along the top, and then we can sew this together with a 1/4 inch seam. Going to open up that zipper just a little bit and finish clipping across. I'm once again sewing with a stitch length of 2.6 and a seam allowance of 1/4 inch, and I will back stitch at both ends. I just want to move my zipper pull. And then back stitch. Now that we have the lining sewn into the front and back exterior, we can go ahead and trim these tails. I don't like to trim them too short. I do like to leave a little bit of a tail there. You'll move everything aside so we can get to the one on this side. We need to press the lining and the exterior sides away from the zipper. I'm going to start with the lining side. So I'm just going to pull both the exterior back and the lining away from the zipper and give it a nice pressing. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Now we'll turn it over, and we want to do the same thing on this side here. Just pull everything away from the zipper nice and tightly and press. Now when you work on the vinyl side, you want to make sure that your iron does not touch the vinyl. I find it's helpful to open the zipper up and then just press on the top band side. We are ready to do some top stitching around the zipper. You want to start right here at the top of the zipper pull. You'll stitch all the way across the top of the band, and you're stitching 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the zipper. You'll come down to your zipper tab and pivot. Then you're going to sew across the zipper tab 1/8 of an inch away from this seam. When you get to the front side, you'll pivot again, and then you're going to sew all the way back to the top and stop at the top of the zipper pull. Your starting and stopping points for your line of stitching should be 5/8 of an inch in from the left side edge. I'm top stitching 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the zipper with a stitch length of 3.0, and I will back stitch at both ends. Now at my zipper tab, I'm going to pivot and stitch straight across that zipper tab. Now I'll pivot and sew across the front band. Place your exterior and your lining pieces right sides together. Then open up the side seams, and you want to go ahead and press them flat. And you have 4 of these side seams all together. So I'll flip it over, and then I'm going to iron the one on the opposite side flat. And then move over to the other side of the pouch and do exactly the same thing. You always want to be careful that you don't touch your iron on your clear vinyl. After you've pressed open the 4 side seams, you want to run a stitch 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of the pouch over the seams. You will do this for all 4 seams, and stitching over the seam will help hold that seam flat when we sew the pouch together. I'm going to stitch over the seam with a stitch length of 2.6, 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of the pouch. I did go ahead and open up the zipper on this side, and you just want to make sure that the bottom part is out of the way. So just hold it flat, make sure that seam is open there. Get it under your presser foot, and you're just going to stitch across and then backstitch. And you want to go ahead and do this to the other 3 seams. This is step 6, which is sewing the pouch together. The first thing that you want to do is move your zipper pulls to the center. And once again, you're going to put your exterior sides together and your lining sides together. Just like this. Then you want to take those side seams and you're going to match them up. And you want to make sure that they're matched up perfectly. And then I like to put a pin in on each side of the seam. And that's going to hold it a lot better than a clip would. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Match up those side seams and make sure that they're perfectly matched. So you can see here I have them matched up. And I'll put in the pins. Then we're going to clip the lining sides together and the exterior sides together. One thing that I like to do is mark in my seam allowance. This is totally optional. You do not have to do this if you don't want to. So I just take my ruler and I'm going to mark in 3/8 of an inch in from the edge of the pouch all the way around. When you get to where your curves are, you can just do a few marks around the curve, 3/8 of an inch in from the edge. Now there's no need to take a deeper seam allowance when you sew this pouch together because I've drafted the pattern in such a way that the lining is going to fit perfectly inside of your pouch. And you do want to leave an opening in the bottom of the pouch for turning it right side out. I have an opening here that's approximately 5.5 inches long. After marking in my seam allowance, I'm just going to go ahead and clip all the way around the pouch with some Wonder Clips. You always want to make sure that all of your edges are nice and even. You also want to make sure to line up the bottom of the top bands on the front and back exterior. Just get them nicely lined up, and I like to hold that together with a pin as well. I finished clipping all the way around. Make sure that your side seams and your top band seams are even with each other. And now we can go ahead and sew 3/8 of an inch all the way around and make sure to leave an opening. I'm ready to start sewing my lining and exterior sides together. I'm sewing with a stitch length of 2.6 and the seam allowance is 3/8 of an inch. Do want a back stitch. Just go slow around your curves. When I get to the seams where the pins are, I like to get as close as I possibly can to the pins, but you don't want to sew over your pins. And now I will stop here where my opening is. Now I'm going to clip my curves. You just want to make some little notches here. You want to be very careful that you don't cut through your stitching. And I'm only cutting notches on the lining side. I am not cutting any notches on the exterior side. Then I'm going to go ahead and iron the seams open only on the lining side. Then where I have my opening, I want to turn that seam allowance back 3/8 of an inch and press it. Then I'm going to flip it over, and I want to also turn back down the seam allowance on this side 3/8 of an inch. Then for the exterior side, I want to have the front exterior facing wrong side up, and I'm going to press this seam open with my roller. Now if you don't have a roller, you can take your point turner and just burnish it down well. I want to trim away half the width of the seam allowance on the exterior side. I do not trim back the seam allowance on my lining side, but you can if you want to. So I'll just go ahead and start trimming. And again, you want to be about half the width of the seam allowance after you're done trimming. Just cut around slowly and carefully. We're ready to turn the pouch right side out. I have the wrong side of the exterior facing up. I'm going to take my iron and gently press over that exterior where that vinyl is on the front side. I'm using a low heat and a dry iron. I'm not using any steam. This is going to help soften the vinyl for turning. That step is totally optional. You don't have to iron it if you don't want to. Now I'm going to reach inside the opening here, and my zipper was already open. I had left the zipper open. I'm going to open it up the rest of the way just by reaching in here. And then I'm going to start with the corner. I'm going to pull it out, and then we'll just work the pouch through that opening. Then I'll just reach in with my hand to push out the rounded corners. So you just want to try and get it to be as nice and rounded as you can. And then you can also get your point turner in there and very gently push the corner out. Now you can see by heating up that vinyl, I didn't have any trouble turning the pouch. If you want, you can do a little test. You can take 2 layers of your cotton fabric that has been interfaced with your Pellon SF101 and layer a piece of your vinyl in between those two pieces of fabric. And then iron over that sample to see how your vinyl responds. You certainly don't want to melt your vinyl, but that is a good way to test if you're not sure. Now for the lining side, you want to do the same thing. Push out your rounded corners. And then I go ahead and give the lining side a good pressing. You want to roll that seam out between your fingers. And then after you're done ironing your lining, you want to clip the opening together and sew it closed. And you can do this with either hand or machine stitching. If you want to machine stitch the opening closed, you'll just simply stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the opening. Make sure that you catch both sides. You want to back stitch at both ends and use a stitch length of about 2.6. Now, if you prefer to hand sew it, I do have a threaded needle here, and I did double up my thread. I will open up the seam, and I want to get my needle up under one of the sides here and come out where the fold is. And then I'm just going to go back and forth from side to side, right in the fold, and just take a little stitch. And I just keep alternating back and forth until I get all the way across. And when you're done stitching this, you won't even be able to see those stitches. They will be buried within those folds. When you come to the end of the opening, you'll just take one more stitch and form a little loop with your thread. Put the needle through the loop and pull tight, and then just do that a couple of times. And then you can bury your thread down into the fabric and cut it off. And you did see that my thread broke there because I pulled it a little bit too hard. But the knot is there and it will be fine. And now that that opening has been sewn closed, we can go ahead and tuck the lining down into the pouch. You just want to get it laying in there nice and smoothly. And the last thing to do is get your point turner and get it up underneath your zipper tab and push up on your zipper tab. You can also push up the side of the pouch there to get it to sit nice and squarely on the outside of the pouch. and then you're done. I do hope that you've enjoyed watching this tutorial, and I hope that you will give the pattern a try. I want to sincerely thank everyone who has supported me by liking my videos and subscribing to my channel. If you are not already a subscriber, I would love to have you as one, and I would also love to see you over at my Facebook group, which is Rosie and David Patterns. Thanks for watching.